I'm going to read a little article from Max Boot today and provide some commentary on that. So let's get into it. Near the end of last week's January 6th House Committee hearing, former Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger, a perpetually cheerful former Marine, said the attack on the Capitol emboldened our enemies by giving them the ammunition to feed a narrative that our system of government doesn't work, that the United States is in decline. China, the Putin regime in Russia, Tehran, they're fond of pushing those kinds of narratives. And by the way, they're wrong. But are they wrong? They certainly have been to date. The United States has been defying predictions of doom for more than 2 centuries. But, as the ads for mutual funds say, past performance is no guarantee of future results. We need to take seriously the possibility that the United States could become a failed democracy, if only to avert that dire fate. There's a good reason that 85% of respondents in a recent survey said that the country is headed in a wrong direction. And a lot of the gloom and doom is due, of course, to the high rate of inflation, which will subside in time. But there are more intractable problems too, such as the persistence of racism and income inequality, that we have far more gun violence than other advanced democracies and yet can't implement common sense gun safety regulations, such as a ban on military-style assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, is a damning indictment of our democracy. So, too, is our failure to do more to address climate change even as temperatures spike. When we do act, it often makes the situations worse, not better. Unleashed by a right-wing Supreme Court, Republican legislatures around the country are repealing or restricting abortion rights. This is producing horror stories that I never thought I would see in the United States. A woman in Texas had to carry a dead fetus for 2 weeks because removing it would have required a procedure that is also used in abortions. A woman in Wisconsin bled for more than 10 days after an incomplete miscarriage because medical staff would not remove fetal tissue. A 10-year-old girl was raped in Ohio and had to travel to Indiana to get an abortion. These are the kind of human rights violations we would be protesting if they occurred in other countries. That they are happening in the United States is an ominous sign of what lies ahead, because other countries in recent years that have taken away abortion rights, Poland and Nicaragua, have also taken away political rights. We already live in a backsliding democracy, where voting rights are being restricted and freedom is under siege. The most severe threat comes from an increasingly authoritarian Republican Party whose maximum leader is an unindicted and unrepentant coup plotter. Despite the yeoman work of the January 6th committee, former President Donald Trump remains the leading contender for the 2024 GOP nomination. And on the current trajectory, he could defeat President Biden, whose unpopularity continues to plumb new depths. We need to be clear about what another Trump term would mean. It could be the death knell for our democracy. Jonathan Swan of Axios has an alarming report on the preparations in Trump world for returning to power. Sources close to the former president said that he will, as a matter of top priority, go after the national security apparatus, clean house in the intelligence community and the State Department, target the woke generals at the Defense Department, and remove the top layers of the Justice Department and FBI. One of the instruments of Trumpian purges would be Schedule F, a new category of federal employment that Trump created in 2020 and Biden rescinded, which would have removed tens of thousands of federal employees from civil service protections. By reviving Schedule F, Trump could fire career officials and replace them with ultra-MAGA loyalists. F might as well stand for fascism, because that is what we will get if Trump were to appoint his most fanatical acolytes to the most powerful positions in government. I wish I could say that such a scenario is implausible, but it is all too realistic. I used to be optimistic about America's future. Not anymore. There's a good reason that so many people I know are acquiring foreign passports and talking about moving somewhere else. The prognosis is grim. As political scientist Brian Klaus just wrote in The Atlantic, given that the GOP has become authoritarian to its core, There are two main ways to save America: either reform the Republican Party or ensure that it never wields power again. But a magnified GOP is likely to gain control of at least one chamber of Congress in the fall and could win complete power in 2024. We seem to be sleepwalking to disaster. If we don't wake up in time, we could lose our democracy. And just because we've avoided a breakdown in the past doesn't mean we will stave it off in the future. It's telling how the left views the Republicans because it shows the true purpose of what Republicans are. Stick around, hang out, kick your feet up. But if you dare to try to change things in a serious way, you will be forced to reform or you will never hold power. That's a very revealing attitude. They're definitely yearning for the old milquetoast conservative days. But that's not what the time is calling for. This is why Max has no idea why 85% of people think this country is headed in the wrong direction. The reasons he gave were weak. What we actually see is populism consistently trying to make a comeback every election cycle to try and wipe out the global elite's agenda, and we just see populism getting squashed time and time again. And under this paradigm of corrupt politicians who will do anything to hold their power, things will only get worse and worse. Now, I'm a believer in the idea espoused in AA's populist delusion, and I think the state does have enough power to manipulate people to hold on to power indefinitely. As things go down the drain, the civil means of bringing the country back from the brink are disappearing quickly, and Max Boot is right to identify fascism as the threat to the current system. I don't think fascism is a great thing to live under, especially if you're on the wrong side of it. But I do believe it's the solution to our current set of problems. Fascism is like a reset button. It's Thanos' snap of the fingers. We could fix this mess pretty quickly. But it would be messy, and you can bet your hiney the powers that be would fight it tooth and nail. I mean, they currently are fighting the possibility of it tooth and nail. We're living under the logical endpoint of liberalism where anything goes, and it's a hellhole beyond our wildest imaginations. Conservative authoritarianism, aka fascism, is the natural swing the other way, and it's one that can actually bring about change. You know that saying, if voting worked, they wouldn't let you do it? Well, you're not allowed to be a fascist because it works. It's the ultimate evil. It's been demonized to the point that an actually true right-wing party has never been allowed to exist in America or the West post-1945. Why is that? Well, let's think about it for a bit. How do you get rid of a central banking system? How do you get rid of corrupt politicians? How do you get rid of certain groups that have an outsized influence on your country? How do you not only stop immigration, but truly reverse the damage done and prevent future harm? How do you get rid of moral decay in society? How do you get rid of destructive feminism? How do you solve the problems that liberalism created? You look to the biggest enemy of liberalism, the end of democracy, and the takeover of a conservative authoritarianism. There's your answer. The elites have really painted themselves into a corner because, on the one hand, they have secured ultimate power. They control everything. But they're ruling using an ideology, or a set of ideologies, that destroys everything they touch. So, as they gain more power, as people gain more civil rights and human rights, as we continue to find strength in diversity and inclusion, and as they hollow out the old institutions to serve as nothing but power outlets, we see the world crumble in front of us in real time. And so we get out and vote, and that's stolen away from us. And now their fearless leader has a full load in his pants and can't remember his own name, and the jig is up. We have the internet. We can catch them in a lie in real time. They seem to be unaware that the internet exists, to be honest. Fauci just lies on camera without realizing he'll ever be fact-checked from things he said last year. Everybody is expecting a midterm blowout. Maybe. I remember when Trump was the hands-down favorite to win in 2020 before the left did what they did to steal power back. And I expect this to continue over and over. Public sentiment doesn't mean anything. These are blatant power grabs. You can only have so many of these before people start to reach for the real solutions to our problems. We keep putting it off. We flirt with it. We claim we don't want it. But when push comes to shove, when food shortages become regular, and when the food is made of bugs, and they start having climate lockdowns, and the country is barely running, we'll start to look at fascism a little differently. Just remember this. Whether or not you are actually fascist, whether or not you actually do fascist things, the simple fact that you are not on the left, or have the gall to take any steps towards the right, will cause them to call you a fascist. And in the case of January the 6th, they will try you in court as if you are. So why not just go for it and become their worst nightmare and actually win in the process? You have nothing to lose and everything to win. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. If you enjoyed this video and type of content I'm making, consider giving this video a like or maybe subscribing. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.